Time is only going to be my friend when it comes to drinking this one. So it's taken 6 weeks for this kit, but I got this Traminer Riesling all said and done, and I've got a video documenting absolutely everything. So let's go take a look through making this kit. Now, I didn't do anything fancy here. I just simply followed all the instructions from the manufacturer. I'm still new to this whole winemaking thing, so I think it's a little bit too early to experiment just yet. Now, I mixed the bentonite here in a jar, and this is definitely a good way to get the bentonite all mixed up in a proper slurry. You'll see that I haven't quite perfected this method in this video yet. There's going to be some clumps and stuff coming up later on that I'm going to have to deal with, but it's definitely the way to go. I'll leave a link in the card. I finally figured it out. There's 0 clumps in the method I'm using now to mix up my bentonite. That's how I'll start. As just like the instructions say, I'll get the bentonite into my primary, and I'm going to add my juice. Now, I don't do anything fancy with pouring the juice in here, but I definitely clean out the bag and take some time cleaning that thing out. I'm just going to be using reverse osmosis water for this entire kit. You'll see in the bag here, there is a ton of, I don't know if it's tannins or wine skins that's in the bottom of that bag, but there's definitely a lot of stuff in there that I do want in my wine base. So I just repeat this process, I think it's 2 or 3 times here to get that bag totally cleaned out. And each time it's just reverse osmosis. I'm filling it up, shaking the bag. And I do that till I'm totally satisfied that that bag is not containing any goodness that I want in my wine. As mentioned here, you can see I'm fighting with those clumps of bentonite. It's a little, I don't know. I fight with it for a while and try to do my best to kind of get the edges all sorted out or squeeze it against the edges to break up the clumps, but it's definitely not, I'm not happy with it, to say the least. Once I've got the bentonite kind of beat up to the best of my ability, I take and just top up to the ridge on the pail, which is about exactly what I need for a carboy, or a 6-gallon, 5-gallon, 5-gallon carboy, and then get my hydrometer reading. Then there's not much left. There's just pitching the yeast to get this primary started, slapping the lid on, and I'll put on a bung and an airlock. And I'm just using, at this point in time, haven't figured out Chitosan yet, so this is still the, whatever the other one is, potassium metabisulfite, I think. And it's in a warm place there. It's on a tile floor, which is heated to 22.5 degrees. And that'll be it for step number 1. After that, there's nothing to do to this thing at all till day 14. Here's what I did at day number 14. Nothing fancy again. So this is going to go and take the wine from the primary fermenter and put it into the secondary. Now there is a disclaimer on the top there that it's going to be 0.996 or lower, so we'll drop in a hydrometer and grab that reading. And it definitely looks like it's there. I think I read a 920 or a 0.920 or 992, I guess it would be. Love this siphon. This thing is so easy to get started. 2 pumps and away she goes. I've also found that you can kind of balance that siphon so you can hands-free it with a little bit of being finicky with it and get most of the wine out of there without having to stand there constantly. Towards the tail end, I'll use the lid underneath one of the corners just to kind of put the fluid all on one side, and then as I get closer to the bottom there, I just keep tipping it over to get the most possible wine. I think I did a pretty good job on this one. You'll notice there's a bit of head space on this one, and the instructions say not to worry about it, so I'm not going to. Yes, I'll have to clean that airlock out. You can see the fruit flies are mega attracted to what's going on with all the winemaking. I did find a way to knock those things out too. Actually, I'll leave a card on the top make a video about it because it's super easy, and I tried like 50 different methods from TikTok and YouTube. This actually works for me. Next on the instructions, it says we got to add the sorbate or the stabilizer stuff into our carboy. We also need to degas this thing as well, so we'll start by just getting the sorbate in there, and I'm going to mix this thing pretty good. Not going to go totally crazy here just yet. I'm going to think I'm going to get the Chitosan in there as well. Yeah, so getting the Chitosan in there as well, and then I actually spend quite a bit of time after this is in there stirring it and degassing it. If you look right at the rim of where the fluid is and where it meets the carboy, where the fluid air thing is, you can kind of see if there's little bubbles on there. Kind of gives you a good indication of when you've done stirring this thing. And of course, give the carboy some love, clean it up a little bit so I can see my fantastic wines and how they're clearing. Then it's just a matter of putting it back into the spot where I leave my carboys, and we're going to do something with it right away again tomorrow on day number 15. On to day number 15. Now this one is kind of, I don't know, this one feels like it's kind of done, and then all you got to do now is wait for the wine to just finish itself out. So we're going to add the contents of the reserve. That's the first thing I'm going to do here. And once I've got that all in there, I'm going to take and I'm going to get some pretty good spin going inside the carboy to make sure both that the reserve is really well diluted, and also when I'm pouring the Chitosan in, that it kind of gets spread right through the wine right away, where it's not just kind of going in one area. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, you'll see me here getting the whole solution up to a good spin. Immediately adding the Chitosan in, and I'm doing it slowly, so I'm trying to get it to disperse as best I can through the whole carboy. And you can kind of see it here right away. It starts reacting and the color kind of starts changing with the wine. Then of course, as soon as I've got that whole Chitosan packet inside there, I'm going to give it another really good stir. And there you can see almost instantly there's quite a dramatic color shift. So it's clearly doing something. Now it doesn't get much easier on day number 20. This is literally a 3-second job, but it is important to do. You're just going to twist the carboy and kind of give it an abrupt twist. And what this will do is all the glass rings that are inside that carboy, the sediment kind of just seems to stick on those different layers. As soon as you twist, everything kind of just starts to fall back and settle back down into the bottom of the carboy. This is the day after the twist is done. You can see how different the wine looks right away. All the sediment that was stuck on the side of the carboy is now starting to form a cake layer at the bottom. Oh, and look at that nice clean airlock. There's no fruit flies in it this time. Now the next thing we have to do with this thing is the polish racking. So the day before you're going to do the polish racking, which is day 40, day 39, I put that carboy on the countertop and kind of get it ready. And you'll see why here. It kicks up a whole bunch of sediment and stuff throughout the wine. So day 39, all I'm doing is lifting this thing up, putting it on the counter, and giving that sediment another chance to settle back down into the bottom of that cake. Day number 40 is a solid day. This is the polish racking one. This, I don't know, to me, the wine always looks so good inside that carboy. If nothing else than to look at it, kind of psychs you up for the tasting later on, because it looks kind of complete. Like, it looks like it's coming along well. I always chuck a towel down on the tile floor here. I just don't know about that whole glass on the tile, if that's a good thing. I should be doing the same thing on the countertop as well. You'll see there's suds in the carboy as well. So Star San has definitely made its way into my home, and I will not be looking back. Managed to get most of the wine out of this one. Nice solid yeast cake left behind. And as mentioned, she looks good. You could probably skip that step if you had 2 people, but I have noticed, I don't know, I think it's worthwhile. It seems to just give a nice clear wine because there is still a little bit of sediment and stuff that seems to settle out in the last couple of days. So I'm going to continue doing it, and the instructions say to do so. There's probably a reason for it. And finally, day number 42, we get to actually take our wine and bottle it and give it a taste. I don't know if it shows up in the video here very well, but there is a tiny little bit of sediment still left in the bottom of that carboy. Now I'm going to be tackling this on my own today, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit nervous about doing this whole thing, so I kind of did my best to kind of set up like a little workstation here to get everything totally ready. Corks are soaked. I've got my racking cane there. The corker is right beside, and the bottle rack is on the table right beside the carboy. So I don't know. I mean, there's nothing left to do here but just give it a go, and that's exactly what I did. Only one way to find out if you can pull this off by yourself, and that's just to give it a go. I mean, worst case scenario, I guess I could have just pulled out the racking cane and waited till the wife showed up or came home from work, but knowing at least that I can do this on my own, that's kind of nice too. It wasn't too bad. It was a little bit hectic at times towards the end. I ended up putting a brush kind of underneath the carboy just to tip it over to make sure I got all the wine out. And it ended up being a little clutch. I actually pulled out exactly the right amount of bottles, which kind of surprised me. There's a little bit left over, but I mean, no wine in the carboy is going to be going to waste on this one. Having a good system for this was definitely really important. Everything right close by and readily available, and you can see it's kind of a little bit gets close to me not getting there in time for the wine bottles when I'm having to go get some more wine bottles off the counter. But I don't know, maybe when I do this again next time, I'd put the bottles beside me on the floor. Not sure if there'd be enough room, but whatever. Either way, it ended up working. The corker was set right and everything ended up working out really well. You can kind of see my workstation. And then I always like to cap them as well. Kind of just, I don't know, to me it feels like it's done. So I'm going to boil the water, throw the caps on, and by the time the water's to a boil, I've got caps on everything, and all I have to do is stick them in the boiling water to shrink those caps. This first one, I kind of rushed a little bit. I should have left it in there just a little bit longer. It wasn't quite totally as nice as it could have been. I find they work a little bit better if you kind of go a little slower and then leave it sit in that boiling water for just like a second or two. And as mentioned, that wine is not going to be going to waste in the bottom of that carboy. This may not look the most professional. It may look a little bit like I've got a problem that I need to confess. Whatever. I wanted a glass to taste for both. I mean, you'll see the tasting here in like a second, but I wanted some for the wife as well. So this is my first tasting of this Riesling, so let's give it a go. Definitely very green, but I think with some age, this thing is going to be fantastic. It's definitely a lovely wine. It's just going to need some age to mellow out those tannins. If you want to see how it looks after it's got some age, I'll put it over here after about, let's give it 3 months before we try it again.